They say the dead never sleep in New Orleans. And after midnight, neither should you. Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Wild Archive, where we dig up the haunted, the hidden, and the downright terrifying. Tonight, we walk through the shadow streets of the Crescent City, a place where ghosts stroll through the French Quarter, spirits rise in the cemeteries, and magic still lingers in the humid air. From the blood-stained history of the LaLaurie mansion to the silent screams echoing in the Sultan's palace, and the spells whispered behind voodoo shop doors, this is New Orleans, like you've never heard it before. So light a candle, pour a little bourbon, and don't look behind you, because some stories in this city don't stay dead. Hello everybody. So yes, we are going to be talking about New Orleans, and specifically the paranormal, and what the paranormal has to do with New Orleans, and some ghost stories of New Orleans. And we'll be talking about like the most famous, the LaLaurie mansion, which I'm sure maybe some of you guys have heard about that. But if anybody's out there that's seen the American Horror Story season, I think it was like 3 or 4 or something. That TV show, that episode is based from the LaLaurie mansion, and that's what it's about, kind of. So, but yeah, I hope your guys' night is going well. And I do have some bourbon here with me, too. But okay, if anybody's ever been to New Orleans, you can say, like, as soon as you land or as soon as you get there, you can tell the atmosphere changes. It feels kind of off, like it's eerie, and you could just feel all the hauntedness, if you will, in the air. It permeates through everything, the whole city. So, and there's other cities, there's other cities like Savannah, Georgia. If any of you guys have been there, I've been there too. And we'll do an episode about that too. And it is haunted. Savannah, Georgia is haunted, let me tell you. But we're talking about New Orleans. And I've been to New Orleans as well. I've only been there once. But when I was there, I just kind of walked around everywhere. I didn't have a car, so I Ubered to the city from like a truck stop, because I was driving my truck through there. And Ubered to the city, and had some really good food, actually. Some like alligator bites and some gumbo and stuff. So, but yeah, it's but when I was there, it was like right after Mardi Gras, so there were still a lot of people there, and all the Mardi Gras stuff was up and everything. But yeah, it was eerie. It was during the daytime. I didn't spend the night there, so I was only there for like 4 hours, 5 hours, something like that. And but let me tell you, like, it was, there's something about it, and if you've never been down there to New Orleans, you should take a trip down there, or at least if you're passing by through, at least stop down there for a couple hours, because it's very, there's a lot of stuff, not just haunted stuff, but there's a lot of stuff to see, like historic, wise or whatever. But let's kind of just dive into this. A little first paranormal / haunted location in New Orleans. And this is probably the most famous thing they got down there, but the LaLaurie Mansion. It's on the 1140 Royal Street, the French Quarter. And, I mean, everybody's claimed to see, hear screams and hear chains rattling and apparitions and everything. And let's read a little back history about Madame Delphine LaLaurie. So, in the early 1800s, Madame Delphine LaLaurie was a wealthy socialite and slave owner known for hosting lavish parties. But behind closed doors, she was committing unimaginable acts of cruelty. In 1834, a fire broke out in the mansion. Firefighters discovered a hidden torture chamber in the attic where enslaved people were mutilated, starved, and chained. The city was horrified, and an angry mob ransacked the house, and Madame LaLaurie fled to Paris. And I'm pretty sure she fled there, and then she died there too. But yeah, like that is crazy. Like, that is just insane. And I'm pretty sure she was a serial killer, because I mean, that type of brutality and being cruel, like that's just cruel, But even though she left and fled to Paris, doesn't mean that her spirit doesn't still linger there. You have people seeing signs of her and of her victims and stuff. Sounds of crying and moaning. Apparitions of chained people. Reports of scratches and cold spots also. And so yeah, the mansion is definitely cursed for sure. I think when I was down there, I don't know why I didn't think about it. I probably would have went there, but I wasn't even thinking about it. And I should have went. Man, if I was thinking about it, I would have went down there and seen it and stuff. But I didn't see it when I was down there. Here's another one. St. Louis Cemetery, number 1. And it's off of Basin Street. And supposedly there's voodoo spirits and restless souls. For those who don't know, or I've never heard of Marie Laveau, she was like a voodoo queen, basically, of New Orleans. I've heard of her. But, let's see, let's read like the little story / history about St. Louis Cemetery. So, this historic cemetery is the final resting place of Marie Laveau, the voodoo queen of New Orleans. She was a real person, a healer and spiritual leader in the 1800s. Even after her death, people say she continues to grant wishes. Her tomb is marked with 3 X's by those hoping she'll fulfill their requests. And it's actually interesting. I wonder if that's like to, I don't know, so I'm just kind of going skeptic here. But I wonder if that's like to, like you can't really do nothing to her grave because she was a voodoo queen or whatever. So, I don't know if her name is there, because it didn't say her name is there along with the 3 X's. It just says her tomb is marked with 3 X's. So I'm not sure, but that's interesting. I'd like to see a picture of that. But people have reported seeing her, in a red and white turban. And of course people, do offerings to her. And supposedly they've moved or disappeared. That's interesting. Strange wind gusts and calm air. And many have fainted or experienced dizziness inside. That's interesting. Yeah, like I'm definitely, I want to do a podcast about Marie Laveau, and maybe we'll do them at the same time. Marie Laveau and Madame LaLaurie. Well, that's interesting. So yeah, those two people I've heard of, and those two hauntings and everything I've heard of before. So here's one I haven't heard of: the Sultan's Palace, Gardot la Pret House. It's off of 716 Dauphine Street. Haunting. Blood on the walls. Perfume smells. Ooh. In the 1800s, a wealthy man claiming to be a sultan lived there with a harem. One night, neighbors heard screams and the next morning discovered the house filled with corpses. Some say they were buried alive. The Sultan was found, mutilated, and buried in the courtyard. No one knows who did it. Interesting. Wow. So they just heard screams. The neighbors heard screams. I wonder if, okay, they heard screams and then they didn't think to go investigate it. That's kind of strange. But I guess they did the next morning and they found the house filled with corpses. I'm going to have to read up on that more. So someone killed the Sultan. I guess they don't know. Yeah, they don't know who did it. Like, well, being a sultan, as he was wealthy, and people usually like that have enemies. Not everybody, but when you have money and stuff like that, you also have power and influence. So I think maybe he might have had some enemies, and they got to him. But it's still haunted. And people report, they smell incense, rotting flesh, doors opening and closing and slamming, shadowy figures on the stairs, a feeling of being watched all the time. Yeah, that would be creepy. Like, that would creep me out. I've never had a lot of paranormal encounters, if you will. But, not like that. Not seeing apparitions or doors slamming. I've never experienced anything like that. But I have felt strange. Like, when I was in Savannah, Georgia, like, I felt like a strange, especially when we were in this one house where this lady died or something. And we were all down in the basement, like, just trying to capture, like, orbs and stuff on the camera or whatnot. But, like, you can feel the paranormal and stuff, aura, if you will, in the air. So, but I've never had any apparitions or seen any spirits before. Okay, this one I've heard of too. The Axeman of New Orleans. I've heard of him. It was somewhere between 1918 to 1919. And the story goes, the Axeman was a real serial killer who broke into homes and murdered people with an axe. He sent a chilling letter to newspapers saying he loved jazz and would spare anyone playing the music the night he returned. That night, the city was filled with jazz music, and no one died. I thought somebody did die, but I wasn't sure. Okay, so I guess nobody died. But yeah, I have heard of this guy, and that's kind of. I for those who don't know, I'm a musician and stuff, and I play the piano and among other instruments, guitar, whatever. And I do love jazz music too. And I don't think I would do this though. I wouldn't force people to play jazz music. But I guess the guy really loved jazz. That's funny. But scary at the same time. He was never caught. Interesting. and some believe he wasn't even human. His presence is still felt in the Bywater and Treme neighborhoods. People here, I've heard of this guy, and I've heard people hearing reports of hearing jazz music and everything, where it's not like they're not at a restaurant, they're hearing it. They're at maybe in the alley somewhere, or walking down the street where there's nobody around. They hear jazz music. Interesting. Okay, this one I've never heard of. The Casket Girls. In French, I guess it's La Fille la Casquette. This one has vampiric legends. So, in the early 1700s, young French women were sent to New Orleans to marry settlers. They arrived with coffin-shaped boxes called cassettes, which sparked rumors. Shortly after, locals reported women with pale skin, odd behavior, and blood loss. Some believe that casket girls were vampires. Wow, I've never heard of that. That's creepy. Who doesn't love a good vampire? But, it says, let's see, creepy facts. The attic of the Ursuline Convent is nailed shut with 17th century nails and blessed by the church. Strange lights and shrieks have been reported, and some say the attic holds something that should never be opened. Creepy. Yeah, I've never heard of the Casket Girls. Here's some haunted hotels, which, not surprised. I think the whole city's haunted, but, here we go. Haunted, Monteleone, 214 Royal Street. Reports of elevator stops on the wrong floor. Ghost of boy named Maurice seen searching for his parents. Ghosts of Confederate soldiers seen in mirrors. Interesting. Fun little scary fun fact. For those who don't know, some places, for superstitious reasons, they don't have a 13th floor. Okay, they do, but they skip it. So next time you go inside a hotel or an office building or downtown or something, and you're in the place has more than 13 floors, like it has 14 or 15 or 20, whatever. Look, when you get in the elevator, look at all the numbers. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. They'll skip 13, they'll go straight to 14. So they'll go 11, 12, 14, 15, 16. Interesting. But yeah, that's a little fun fact. Here's another one. Omni Royal Orleans. Reports of disembodied voices and a ghostly maid who tucks in guests at night. Imagine you're sleeping, there's a maid. Well, let's say you're at the hotel, and obviously there's no maids. No, there's maids there to clean the hotel, whatever, but this one's wearing like an old, maid garment, not the ones they typically wear now. And she tucks you in at night. That'd be kind of creepy. But yeah, so I'm gonna dive into some the magic of New Orleans, the magic, the mysticism. Earlier, we mentioned the Marie Laveau, the Voodoo Queen. Voodoo. Let's read on a little, like the history of voodoo. So, like, these are like the roots. And, okay, here originated in West Africa and merged with Catholicism and Native American beliefs during the colonial slave trade. New Orleans voodoo, a unique blend involving ancestor worship, nature spirits, also known as Lois, candle work, and altars. Marie Laveau, the voodoo queen, practiced healing, divination, and spirit communications. She's still honored today. As we were reading earlier about her grave, marked by the 3 triple X's. Voodoo ceremonies, spell work, and altars are real and active in homes and temples. Locals leave offerings like rum, coins, chicken bones, etc. at Marie Laveau's tomb. You'll see spiritual candles, grease bags, I'm not sure what those are. Oh, amulets. And voodoo dolls in homes and shops. Yeah, when I was down in New Orleans, I actually went inside they said they were a voodoo shop, but I don't know. I think they were just there to cater to tourists and stuff. Because I saw other stuff that wasn't voodoo. I'm like, okay, well, why do they have this in their shop if it's supposed to be all voodoo? But because they had other stuff. But it still was pretty cool. It still was pretty interesting. And I didn't buy anything. I was just looking around and stuff. And also, for those who go to New Orleans, and you want to take pictures and stuff, that's fine. But make sure, this is a little disclaimer, but make sure that, first off, some of the places have little signs outside their shops, and they'll say, like, don't take any pictures or video. And because a lot of the stuff they make is homemade and stuff, and they don't want people stealing their ideas or whatever. And I learned that the hard way. So, but and then some shops don't have that little sign, so you'll just have to ask them, like, hey, can I take a picture or video? And some of them will say yes, and some of them will say no. So just keep that in mind if you go down there. Then we're gonna talk about. So that was a little thing about voodoo, but there's also hoodoo, which I've heard of hoodoo too, but it's not the same as voodoo. It's more of a folk magic system. It's still based, on African, Native American, and European traditions, it has herbs, oils, powders, and prayers to influence luck, money, love, protection. Practitioners, also known as root workers, might work out of botanicas, or by word of mouth only. Interesting. Right, yeah, because you can't write everything down, they're used to bless homes, hex enemies, draw love or money, or cleanse negative energy. Still practice, especially in the outskirts and older neighborhoods. Yeah, right. And we're definitely going to do a podcast about magic and everything, and it's going to be a long one, though, We're not going, because there's a lot of it, but we're not going to go into it right now. I'm just kind of giving, a little brief summary of all this. And then cemeteries as sacred ground. New Orleans cemeteries are not just graveyards. They're spiritual places. Locals and visitors leave offerings at graves. Some do rituals or protection work before entering. St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 and St. Roch's Cemetery are especially known for spiritual energy and magic work. Oh yeah, I could see that. They kind of did the same thing at Savannah, Georgia. I think it's more like all the magic voodoo stuff and everything. It's more prominent in New Orleans. Let's see, occult shops and temples. Modern magic is visible on every corner. Yeah. Yeah, they have voodoo shops there and everything. But, I think if you want to go see a real voodoo priest or shop, go to a voodoo shop, I think you have to know somebody who lives down there, and maybe has, inside connections or something. It's not where all the tourists go to and everything, but just, those who are curious, like me, I'm curious about all this stuff, so, but you gotta be mindful, and you have to be careful, because you can't just blindly jump into all this stuff. You gotta do your research and read up on stuff and know that you're doing it right. That way, you can avoid any mishaps or anything that happens. Because even if you don't know, or you were wrong, or you were ignorant about something, you just didn't know, because most people they just don't know, and you can avoid that by doing your research and everything. And I'm talking about magic stuff and voodoo stuff and mysticism and all that kind of stuff. Local belief in the supernatural. In New Orleans, belief in spirits, ghosts, and magic isn't just tolerated, it's respected. Right, like I was saying. Locals talk about spirits and hauntings like you talk about the weather. Many people have aunts or neighbors who do cleansings, read cards, or know someone who does. Spiritual blends into life. Weddings might include blessings or protection rituals, and many won't move into a home until it's cleansed. Yeah, for those who move into a new house or a new apartment or whatever, I would find out first, before you're gonna buy a house or anything like that, make sure somebody hasn't died in it. If you're like, okay, whatever, I don't care if somebody died, I get that, you need to move it somewhere. But find out, if anything happened in there, and if something did, then and you can get it cleansed by a priest or the proper, people. But, let's see, common magical practices you'll hear about down there. Floor washes to remove bad energy. Mojo bags for gambling, luck, or love. Road opening spells with scent candles and oils. Protection rituals using black salt, sage, or fiery wall of protection oil. That's interesting. But yeah, for those who are doing this kind of stuff, just just make sure you're first do a little prayer, before you do all this stuff. Protect yourself with white light or white energy, or whatever. Whoever you pray to, too. So, but yeah. And the ghosts of New Orleans never say goodbye. They just slip into the shadows and wait for you to return. Thanks for joining me on this haunted journey through the soul of the Crescent City. If you felt a chill down your spine, maybe it wasn't just the story. Make sure to follow the Wild Archive wherever you get your podcasts. And if you ever find yourself walking down Royal Street after dark, just remember, not every whisper is the wind. Stay curious, stay brave, and stay out of the attic.